Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Datejust 40 Run, reference 126334. The Datejust 41 in white Rollesaur, as Rolex would call it, with a white gold bezel, gray gold to be honest, because it never needs to be rhodium plated, and then Rolex's 904L steel, which, though no harder than 316L, is more resistant to corrosion, including against salt water. The watch is, at least at face value, as big as the Datejust 2, but it's better proportioned. It's still 41 millimeters in diameter and 11.6 millimeters thick. The case itself is 47.5 millimeters lug-to-lug, but if you add the solid end links of this Oyster bracelet, you get a 51 millimeter measurement across the wrist with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lug horns. This model came out in 2016, but if you take a quick look at the dial, you can see this model was built since 2018 because it features the little Rolex crown between Swiss and made, and that's how you can tell. Let's throw it on the wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. It's broad, flat, and comfortable. It wears the same as the Datejust 2 did, and that watch was made from 2009 to 2015. Because the Datejust 2 only ever offered the Oyster bracelet, never the Jubilee, it's not immediately evident which one you're looking at when it's on the wrist, but if you take a close look, ultimately you'll find that the crown, the bezel, the lugs all have a better proportional aesthetic than the somewhat brutalist Datejust 2 did. Taking a quick look across the wrist, I've got plenty of extra spacing on either side of the lugs, so I believe you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and you wouldn't really find any difficulty. It would be secure and it would look proportional. The Oyster bracelet is sporty, a 3-link design. It is very robust. It's polished outboard, its shoulders are satinated, the center is of high polish, and then you can see that the removable links are fixed by screws. The interior of the clasp is all of high polish. There's a beak and a hook, so this is a single locking system, unlike those that have the clamshell, but it is a lift lock system, so you can't just pull it open. You do have to disengage by lifting the lock and disengaging the lock, so it's still a very secure system. Externally, a straight through polish, internally, easy link. It's the same as adding or removing one sizable link. It snaps in, it snaps out, 5 millimeters of adjustment, and then you can see internally there are a couple of divots drilled within the clasp, 3 divots with tracks leading in, so you use your strap tool to pop the spring bar and restation it so you can change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. So 3 ways to size this watch on the wrist. The case is still graceful. It's not the super case profile from the GMTs, the Sea Dwellers, the Submariners, and the Explorer 2s. You can see this is actually a handsome, beautifully tapered case that is a lot like a large version of the standard Date 8 or Datejust. All of high polish, nicely blended compound curves, and a bezel that twinkles like a cut gem. This is a unrefinished gray gold bezel. Gray gold is 18 karat white gold, but unlike standard white gold, which is rhodium on top of a milky yellow base, this one can't be scratched through to a different color, and it never needs to be plated with rhodium. Twin lock crown, screw down, 100 meters water resistant, solid Oyster case back. We'll talk about the movement in a moment. And this combination of steel and white gold Rolex calls white Rollesaur. The dial also features white gold. The crown, the indices, and the hands are all white gold, the better to resist oxidation and tarnish over time. They will not change their color or dull. The dial base is made of black lacquer, and the watch includes outboard minutes and seconds, numerals, and hashes. The watch does have hacking or stop seconds. It also features a quick set date. You pull the crown to the intermediate position, and from the intermediate position you can quick set the date just like that, and hacking again stops the seconds hand. The movement is Rolex caliber 3235, bidirectional automatic winding. The news there is it now uses a rotor bearing instead of the old and somewhat shock prone jeweled staff. The bearing is more shock tolerant. The watch is now a 70-hour power reserve rather than the previous 48, and it has a Liga fabricated Chronergy escapement that's basically Rolex's escapement technology response to Omega's coaxial. The watch has 8 beat per second rate, so it's 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it pivots on 31 joules. This generation, the 3235, now uses Rolex's own Paraflex shock protection, no longer KIF. And it is very tough with a full balance bridge and a free sprung index for shock resistance. It has an overcoil hairspring made by hand, a Breguet overcoil, that allows it to keep excellent time in any position, and that quality helps the watch to earn a COSC Swiss chronometer certificate, but it's the movement that earns the certificate. Rolex cases up the movement and then retests it in 6 positions, not the chronometer 5, to ensure that it runs no worse than plus or minus 2 seconds per day as a fully assembled watch from the factory. Finally, Rolex uses a blue oxidized niobium zirconium hairspring in this watch. They call it Parachrome Blue. It is extremely anti-magnetic. So water resistant, shock resistant, and anti-magnetic. This is a dress watch that could also be your sports watch and vice versa. Reach out to Tim Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Not all Datejust 41 dials are loomed, but this one is, making it an ideal all-around companion.